Welcome, everybody. Today it's another day for the Knowledge Sharing Forum of the World Confederation of Productivity Science, event, which is conducted by the World Academy of Productivity Science. World Confederation of Productivity Science, which is the big umbrella, where we all operating this from the World Academy of Productivity Science, the Knowledge Sharing Forum, and this is our 5th edition. I'm so excited to have all of you around today in this special event, focusing on something special to humanity, and which is mental health and productivity. My name is Remy Dairo. I'm the coordinator today. I'm the president of the Institute of Productivity and Business Innovation Management, IPBIM, in Africa. I'm also the CEO of Productivate Plus in Houston, Texas, America. I have too many hats, this morning, but I just want to focus on one hat. I'm just coordinating this event. I don't want to be the speaker, and I don't want to be the one doing any, introduction in all the things that we need to do. So I'll go straight to the point. I want to appreciate and recognize all our speakers. I want to recognize the chairman of the WPS. I want to recognize the president, Mr. Mike, Mr. Peter, Sonny, Anita, and all the Guthan and all the members of the World Confederation of Productivity Science who are here today, and then Professor Ben. I see a lot of you around. I can't show you one by one, but I want to welcome you all on this special occasion of this webinar. So we're going to go straight by having the welcome address by one of the vice president of the World Academy of Productivity Science, Dr. Sonny, to give us welcome address. Then we take it up from there. Dr. Sonny, over to you, please. You are muted, please.
Am I audible now?
Yes, you are good to go. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning and good evening to everyone, people from different parts of the world. Thank you, Remy, for the initial observations and introduction. In fact, it is our honor and privilege that we have Mike Dillon and Peter Watkinson on our panel. They are participating in this event. They represent WCPS board. We have other members of the board also present in this forum. As Mike mentioned in his initial observations, mental health and productivity is of interest to WCPS and WAPS. We have been thinking about this topic for the last 1 year, ever since the world came out of COVID-19, because there have been multiple implications of COVID on mental health of people across functions. Mike mentioned about mental health challenges in organizations, but there are mental health challenges in schools, children. There are mental health challenges in college-going students who are basically competing for jobs and admissions to higher level educations. And there are challenges in the corporate world and in the society at large. So this is an interesting area that is of interest to WCPS and WAPS. This event today, we believe, will be a curtain raiser for the conference that we plan to hold sometime in 2024 and maybe 2025, depending upon once we finalize our host and the country we want to do this event. Let me welcome all our speakers and the participants. Special thanks to Dr. Harvey Schipper for his presence here, because he is going to make introductory comments and make some observations from his vast experience. Dr. Harvey is a fellow of World Academy of Productivity Science and is a renowned scientist and a doctor. We also have 3 main speakers who would give us the wisdom of their knowledge. We have Daryl Chow from Hong Kong. We have Joanne Frederick from US, and Elyse Schipper from Canada. My special welcome to all these three speakers for agreeing to speak at this forum. Thank you very much for your time and effort. Over to you, Rami, for taking the program further.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Sonny. That's awesome. Thank you very much for being brief. Thank you for that introduction. All right, just for us to have a kind of a global perspective to what we are doing, I want us to just say hello to us and tell us where you are from. This is hello from Remy from Texas, Houston. So let me get your feedback. Let's get that. Let's get that. Where are you watching from? Where are you connecting from? Let's get that.
Hi, Remy. It's Ban Sukhdeo from UNISA in South Africa.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, bro. Thank you for coming around. Okay, again, let's have that global feel.
Anita Tang this time is from Hong Kong.
Hong Kong. Thank you, Anita, from Hong Kong.
Hi, Anita.
Who is there? Just your name and where are you connecting from? We need to have that global feel.
I'm Kirsten Dimel. I'm a graduate student in Northern Virginia.
Okay, Virginia, that's the United States. Thank you very much, Kristen. Okay.
Karen Linden from Canada.
Canada, thank you, Karen, from Canada. Okay. Sanjay, where are you from?
Yeah, good evening. Myself, Sanjay Pituri, representing Nashville Education Foundation from India, Bangalore. We are working for enhancing, under the tagline of enhancing productivity, enhancing life. That is our tagline. We are working. We have started just recently. Last month only. So I'm associated with your council also. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you. We appreciate it from India. Which part of the world are we having you from?
Hello, Remy.
Yeah, hello. Good to see you.
I'm joining from the Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Although I am representing Turkey.
Turkey, Netherlands. Thank you.
Yes.
We have not taken your part. I think Peter is from Canada, so we have some other people from Canada. So, which other part of the world we have not captured? Somebody here. I need to help us with somebody who has Japanese, inscription. I mean, maybe the name or inscription. Probably he or she will need interpretation, right? But I think somebody.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Hi everyone. My name is Keen. I'm from Malaysia.
Okay, awesome. Thank you from Malaysia. Thank you. Also, and I think others are going to join us as we move on. Thank you very much. Now, let me give us a kind of a background. When we talk about mental health, we talk about one of the important things we need to talk about there is mind, mental, mind. And there's no how we talk about mind without talking about how the body functions. And we cannot talk about productivity without talking about the body. We can't talk about people, mental, mind. There can be products, development. There can be design or processes. There can be more effectiveness, efficiency when the mind is off. There can be productivity when the mind is not in the right place. And I think today we have a very important topic before us. And it's a topic that the world has been talking about. And I think we are bringing it to the burnout today to say, how do we improve on mental health? Or how does mental health affect productivity? And if it does really affect, how do we go around it? What do we need to do? What are the things we need to pick? What are the things we need to drop? What are the things we need to take away from this conversation? And that's why we brought experts from different parts of the world and then different walks of life. So we didn't only bring professors from the university. We brought people who are already practitioners. We brought people already in the world of mental health. So I don't want to do the introduction, but I just want to mention the names and then so that you know what we're expecting in today. And I'm sure if you have the flyer with you, you will have seen names. So we'll be having Dr. Harvey Schipper, who is coming from Canada. He's a professor of medicine, an adjunct professor of law, University of Toronto. And he has so many hats in today, but today he's going to do the opening address. He's going to give us an insight into what we are doing here today. We also have Ms. Daryl Chow from Hong Kong. She also going to look from the angle of, mental health from her own perspective, because we want them to come from different perspectives. And today is very interesting. We have all our ladies, all the women looking at the angle of mental health from different perspectives. So we have Dr. Joanne Frederick, who also is coming as from the university environments and looking at mental health. And because he has been doing this for many years, and she's going to come from that perspective. We also have Ms. Elyse Schipper, who also is coming from the angle of mental. She has been on this, counseling people and being on that path for some years now, and then she's going to come from that angle. And if I have to read their profile one by one, it's going to take all the time. But what I would just do is just to each time I'm bringing them on board, I just have to read the first paragraph of their profile so that you can go further to check the flyer or go online to search more about them. Because if I start to read their profile right now, it's going to take the whole day, and I give it to them. They are professionals in their own right. So I want us to start because I'm looking at my time, and I have many of my senior colleagues here who will be checking on me and my time. I don't want them to flog me if I don't do the right job. So I would like to start right now by inviting Dr. Harvey Schipper, who will open up this conversation by giving us our official opening. But before that, I want to recognize officially the chairman of the WCPS, Mr. Michael Dilton, and I want to recognize the president, Mr. Peter Watkins. At any point, if I have time for you to make your speech, if I don't, I've recognized you. Please, we are tight for time. Let's see as we can achieve more with this limited time. So over to you, Dr. Harvey Schipper, have your opening address. Thank you. Over to you. I yield the mic to you. Thank you. You are muted, please.
Thank you very much, Remy. It's a pleasure to be here and to meet all sorts of remarkable people from around the world. Your comment about the importance of body-mind connection does take me to one of my favorite quotes from my professor of engineering, who was instrumental in my becoming a physician many years ago. One day I was in his office and we were talking about a physiology lecture that didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. Someone saying that the pituitary was somehow not connected to the rest of the brain. And he looked at me with his twinkle in his eye and his very disciplined British background, and he said, "Harvey, if the body and mind weren't connected, why did God make necks?" So that stuck with me ever since. I've used that quote often in teaching people about the importance of the body-mind connection. And it actually started very much in my engineering days, in which, of course, I was also introduced to the notion of productivity, which is sat in the back of my mind and sort of works there all the time. I became an oncologist, ran a regional cancer center, and in fact, led a group of researchers who opened the whole field of quality of life research and its measurement in cancer. And that very clearly started to reflect the whole body, the social functioning, and the mental health functioning of people in my context in those days professionally, which was in the field of cancer. In later years, a series of circumstances made me much more aware of the impact of mental health challenges on young people, on adolescents, and how, in fact, it was a kind of silent thing going on. People weren't talking about how their children were troubled, having trouble with school, getting into drugs, and compromising their life way down the line. So not only their individual productivity, but in a sense, the collective productivity was compromised. And that number was, brought to mind again some months ago when, in conversation with the president of one of the very large insurance companies in our part of the world, they said 30% of their disability payments go in support of mental health issues. So this is a really big issue, even if you narrowly define it to mental health, but productivity in an old engineering sense, but broader social productivity. The pandemic also, for me, opened the window further. And I was part of a small conversation with an internationally known neuropsychologist who had done data. Actually, it was in Israel in the second year of the pandemic. And they'd found that 30% or more of adolescents between ages 15 and 30 were experiencing major mental health consequences of the pandemic, just at a time when they're supposed to go out to irritate their family, to make friends, to experiment in the world, and to build their lives. They were basically locked up in their rooms because of the isolation requirements of the pandemic. And it's a price that we're only starting to be aware of. And the estimate is that for many, it's going to take many years to deal with it. That having been said, there's some fundamental principles that I think energize us to think about mental health as something we can deal with, and particularly for that younger 15 to 30 generation. The first is the realization that adolescent brains are not simply smaller adult brains. They're built neurophysiologically to, in fact, deconstruct in a way and reconstruct. There's neuronal rearrangements that are substantial in the adolescent years. There's a plasticity of the adolescent mind that both leads it to experiment, leads it maybe to get into trouble from time to time, but also says this is the time when an intervention can be most effective. And if we, for example, borrow from the experience in the drug addiction and alcohol abuse communities, if you're able to intervene, recognize the problem when someone is younger, the likelihood of success in helping them be fuller, happier, more productive, in the broadest sense, humans, members of the community, is much greater if you intervene then than if you try and do it in their 30s and 40s. The other thing is that the healthcare system tends to be stuck in old ways, in old paradigms of care. And what we really need is innovation, and people outside the healthcare system who put forward experiments, new ideas, take the risks of trying something new to see if it's going to make a difference. And in many respects, that's something the private sector can do better than the healthcare systems, which are locked into their paradigms. So we need to encourage, this is where the private sector can be involved, where insurance companies, for example, are starting to step in, if only in their self-interest. And one of the fundamental criteria for success of these kind of things is that it's not simply that you go and do something, but you do something with definable goals and measurable outcomes from the outset. So we have three experts who can speak to this issue from the corporate perspective, from the clinical perspective, and if you will, from an operational institutional perspective, working with families as a whole who are facing these problems. And I'm delighted to turn it over to these real experts and learn from them.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Harvey. Thank you. That was awesome. Preparing our mind for what to have today. So I'm going to jump right in there by inviting the first speaker. Our first speaker will be someone who you must have read about, but if you've not done that, I want you to just Google Daryl Chow. She's from Hong Kong presently, and then she is the lead agile coach for full service commercial bank based in Hong Kong. And I would just say she has an MBA, it's an MBA and certified agile coach. Ms. Chow has some 20 years of global working experience, the span of training and people development to various management positions and agile coaching in financial services sector. I work with senior managers, countless involve talent management and challenges, all sort of in line with helping them to achieve productivity. May I invite to the microphone Ms. Daryl Chow.
Thank you, Remy.
You have 15 minutes.
Thank you. Now, can I have the screen? May I share the screen from my side, Remy?
Yes, please. You already a co-host. You can do that.
All right, let me do that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, we can see your screen. Go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Remy. Now, hello, everyone. I'm Daryl Chow. Okay, to start off, I'm pretty excited to be here today, and I would like to thank the organizer, Remy, Anita, and of course, a few others for the wonderful invitation. Now, I've enjoyed the insightful opening by Dr. Harvey Schipper. I'm actually really looking forward to hear from Ms. Schipper and Dr. Frederick. I mean, from the clinical and from the operational perspective on that. Well, I'm going to start off a little bit about myself. Now, I'm a Malaysian, born and raised in Kuala Lumpur. I have my fair share of exposure working in some really vibrant cities and countries in Asia. Aside from Malaysia, Singapore, and Southern China in my earlier years, I've spent the past 12 years based in Shanghai and Hong Kong, working with individuals and companies on business transformations, on modular trainings to improve productivity and efficiency. Now, I know that I'm only being given 15 minutes, and I do pretty much want to stick to that time frame there. So I will limit my sharing today, okay, on this topic to Hong Kong. Now, talk about Hong Kong. Hong Kong is an exciting cosmopolitan with a lot over 7 million people. Now, we have the Western lifestyles mingles with ancient Chinese culture. We have the old traditions coexist with the new. Now, in general, Hong Kong have a very fast pace of life. Now, it is also really crowded with the most unaffordable housing in the world. Now, people here, they live, work hard, play hard kind of lifestyle. Now, some statistic here. Hong Kong ranked 45th out of 50 countries in work-life balance and ranked top when it comes to overworked cities. Now, the city has one of the longest working hours in the world, and I'm talking about 50 hours per week. And near 40% of them work 4 to 8 hours overtime each week. And the level of mental health awareness in Hong Kong, well, 61% of Hong Kong adults currently are suffering from poor mental health being, with 1 in every 7 people developing a common mental health disorder in their lifetime. Now, anxiety and depression are 2 of the most common mental health issues in Hong Kong. And near 75% of them never seek any form of professional help. Now, over the past 4 years, Hong Kong people has gone through a so-called mental health tsunami caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and other major stressors. Now, workplace is one of the top stressors here. Aside from meeting deadlines, heavy workloads, poor team cultures, lack of recognitions, low job satisfactions, all this, the COVID-19 pandemic introduced new avenues. The isolation associated with the virtual working environment, the lack of social activity, the fear of job security. And of course, for those working parents with younger children, they are struggling with childcare challenges, with sustained schools shutdowns, childcare closures. Now, we're seeing mental health issues impacting a wide spectrum of people, including an expanded age range on both sides. Now, on one end, there's a recent youth mental health study held by the Hong Kong University finds close to 20% of youth have had suicidal thoughts in the past year. Now, it's hard for them because over the past few years, because of the pandemic, I mean, schools are shutting down on and off. They lack of interaction, social activities. They've been like going on Zooms, okay, attending classes there. They didn't get enough time to spend with their classmates and friends. They didn't get to go out and play basketballs, okay, and talk to people. And in Hong Kong here, maybe karaoke's. So it's hard for these people. In fact, there's a report that I read last week that says that over the past 3 months, there are over 22 teenage suicide attempts or death recorded in Hong Kong. And that's double the number recorded for the same period last year. Now, on the other hand, another research reveals that last year alone, 1/3 of the elderly people aged 60 to 79 suffered from at least one condition of depression, anxiety, or loneliness. Now, again, a significant gain from 2 years before. And when it comes to mental health support, now we're looking at a big gap here, as Hong Kong's mental health professionals are only half the number as recommended by the WHO, considering its population size. Now, aside from this, a lot is happening in the corporate world as well. Now, again, in my sharing, I'll narrow it down to the financial services in the environment that I'm currently at. Now, the event of COVID-19 actually expedited the whole mental health awareness, okay, from last time a mere nice to have to a true business essentials. Now, the pandemic has reshaped the whole consumer habits and lifestyles, and the business environment now is much more volatile. We have disruptive technologies and the ever-changing customer demands. Now, as a result, it's imperative to adapt to the changing business landscape. Now, from a business point of view, we need to drive operational productivity and business innovation so that we can better engage with customers. Now, that's how that it was right on the year 2021 when we officially launched the Agile Culture Transformation. And under that umbrella, we have process reengineering, we have fintech digitalization. And the transformation is built on 4 pillars. 1, personal and team interaction. 2, customer centricity. 3, true cross-functional collaboration. And 4, responding to change. And you know what? All these, they have something in common. They all require people to pull it off. Now, I got to admit that it was daunting at the very beginning. There was a lot of fear to unknown, okay, a lot of disruption to employees' routine. And the last 4 years, especially, I mean, it hasn't been easy. I mean, people has been trying to adapt. The working from home, the virtual meetings, the trying to get jobs done, and while trying to care for families and elderlies, dependents. So it wasn't easy, but we kept pushing on anyway. We know that this is the right thing to do. So we started at the top with the leaders to shape the commitment and success stories. We invest in building awareness and understanding. We adopted the ACCA model to all staffs across the company. We use various means of communication to motivate change, starting from say, then to behave, and then proceed to operate, like one step at a time, making sure that everyone should have at least a baseline knowledge and tools to navigate work. Now, not just with agility, but also placing the internal and external customer at the center of everything we do. Now, we're trying to foster a culture of connection and empowerment. We molded people-oriented values. We talk about respect, courage. We talk about commitment. We try to get them into sharper focus. We try to change the way team members feel. We share goals and expectations with our team. We discuss how performance will be measured. We kept that level of transparency. We try to ensure that staffs understand their role, and we try to make a lot of different alternative arrangement for those with childcare and dependent issues. Now, of course, there won't be any empowerment without accountability because the two of them, they go together. Hence, we continuously review and refine the accountability mechanisms to ensure that teams, they have the resources and the right bandwidth necessary to do their job productively while staying mentally healthy. Now, it wasn't easy, when we talk about empowerment and accountability, when everybody's so on edge all the time. So we try different ways. We try to listen to them as well. And then we try and do refinements. We talk to people from the human resources. We try to talk to the people from the top. We try to do minor adjustment. And aside from that, we also try to keep everyone on radar through some regular time box events. We talk about sprint planning. Okay, we talk about daily stand-ups, those agile framework. We try to do this, okay, and insist on doing it so everyone knows what everyone is working on. We pay particular attention to retrospective meetings to teams, starting with something simple, like what went well, what went wrong, what can we learn from this, or what have we learned? We use this kind of events to share appreciation as well, to celebrate small wins. And this brings teams on meaningful communication, showing the importance of empathy, learnings, okay, in creating healthy working relationships in between individuals and teams. Now, over the past 2.5 years, now this change of corporate culture and new way of working. Now, it wasn't easy, okay? And it's not possible to get everybody, every single one of them, to move in the same direction. But it does have its influence. The influence is not only on the employee's performance, but also on self-satisfaction, on workplace well-being. Under the new culture, a staff's voice is listened to. Everyone in the team help and contribute in shaping the work and the team dynamics. We're seeing better ways in handling emotions, mental power, physical strength to improve a person's productivity, efficiency, and well-being. Now, how did all this work out so far? Now, we have done the employee engagement survey and executive survey for 2 consecutive years. The survey shows that the employee engagement scores are rising up. Now, people actually feel a greater commitment to the company. We receive positive comments, okay, on the shift of culture with keywords like teamwork, people, agile culture, stability, friendly environment. Now, the survey also shows a boost in terms of innovation, resources, continuous improvement, and a rise in leadership confidence. Now, meanwhile, from the executive survey, okay, it also shows greater team engagement, okay, higher staff loyalty, which all these are reflected in the number of applications using new way of working in improving productivity. We're looking into process and flows, how to do streamlinings, okay? Everybody can do a little bit from those they are in control of. And they're being recognized and celebrated in good ways. Now, in fact, okay, I've been, doing some data gathering, and over the past 12 months, we have implemented 375 new ideas and saved over 1,000 to 12,000 man-hour last year. Now, of course, this is only a start, okay? There's still a long way to go. We still need to do a lot in improving productivity and innovation, okay, in order to get into business viability. Now, learning from feedback, because we keep listening, okay, from them. We know that we still have to work on, okay, the work-life balance, okay? We're making improvement, but we're way, still far from there. So work-life balance, that's like top of the chart there. We need to work on the change adaptation, okay? And of course, on the risk articulation and many more. Now to wrap up, okay, I hope I'm still within that 15 minutes there, Remy, okay? To wrap up, I do like to say, now, people are the key to productivity here. Now we need to create the right working environment, okay, for healthier, happier people in order to make that happen. Okay, business viability, business sustainability, customer engagement, it doesn't just come from nowhere. We need people, and we need healthy people, happy people, committed people. But mental well-being is a journey. Quite a complicated journey, I must say. There's no real destination. There's no so-called final outcome for it. It has got a number of moving blocks, moving parts, and the needs are constantly changing. So we won't be able to get all the answers immediately all at once. And we can't really plan 3 years ahead or 5 years ahead. We need to adapt our approach as we continue rooting the new culture. So we're pacing ourselves one step ahead at a time. Okay. And we're hoping to see more progress. It's not going to be easy, but we're hoping to see more.
Thank you.
Now, that's all for my sharing today. Okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm passing back to Remy. Where you go.
Thank you. Thank you. Awesome. I'm sure we wanted us to have you as our last speaker, but this should go first because we need to have this comprehensive, detailed workplace.
I'm happy to be the first. I'm happy to go first, Remy.
All right. So now we need to move on. Please, you can exit the sharing so that we can move to the next speaker. All right. Yeah, I tell you, something that cut across all of us is the workplace. Either you are a professor in university, you are you work in the NGO space, not for government space, or you work, in the classroom, or you're a student. One thing cut across all of us all is the workplace. So I think it was right, to call you to be the first speaker so that I can give us that detailed dimension to it. So welcome. Thank you very much. That was explicit. There are questions for you. Please, if you have any question, could you just write down on your paper somewhere? When we're done, we're going to ask. When all the speakers are done, we're going to ask questions, and then I personally have questions for you because I'm also an agile coach, so I have questions for you from the agile dimension. All right, so we're moving forward. I want to go to the university environment right now to see. To get the academic dimension, and this person I want to call is not just going to give us the academic dimension. It's going to give us the both academic experience and all that. If I should listen a book in line with how people can cope in that dimension. I mean, I don't want to give you all the expo right now, but let me just read one phrase in her bio, in her profile, so that you can have an insight into who we are bringing on board. Dr. Joanne Frederick is from the United States, and she's known as the practitioner scholar. You can imagine, practitioner scholar. The associate professor of counseling in Division of Child, Family, and Community Engagement, College of Education and Human Development at George Mason University. She has so much graduates on her, on her path, and she has helped many people from depression, relationship issue, terminal illness, learning disabilities, and much more. More. You can go and read more about Dr. Joanne Frederick. Now, will I open the platform for one of our speakers today to take us on another dimension to mental health. Dr. Joanne, over to you. I yield the floor for you to take over for 50 minutes, and then we'll take it from there. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Remy, for such a animated and welcoming address. And thank you to the board members of WCPS for having us here. And Daryl, that presentation was amazing. Thank you so much from that perspective. So a little bit about me. So I am currently right now in Maryland, the United States, but I'm first generation American. And what that means is that my parents and my entire family are from Trinidad and Tobago, West Indies. So a lot of my worldview is coming from a multicultural lens. But professionally, I'm a licensed professional counselor in the states of Maryland, Virginia, and the District of Columbia. I'm an associate professor in the counseling programs at George Mason University, which is located in Fairfax County, Virginia. And I think I have one of my colleagues online here, Christine. Thank you for sharing that you're in Northern Virginia. And then lastly, at least my role today is I'm the author of a book called Copology. Copology is a word that I trademarked and coined, and it means to the study of coping. So as a mental health professional and a university professor, my thought, especially during the pandemic, was that if we can study how to cope with life changes and challenges, we'll be able to manage stress. And so as a behavioral scientist, I specialize in treating people with depression, anxiety, relationship issues, financial issues. And not only do I teach, I train people how to deal with that, I teach counselors in training to be counselors in the world in general, but also school counselors for middle school, elementary, and high school. Earlier, Dr. Schipper talked about the importance of children's mental health needs as well. So in a nutshell, I'm in private practice and I am in academia, and thus they call me the practitioner scholar at the academy. So before I talk about mental health and productivity, I want to define these words. So my definition of mental health is one's ability to manage psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, and socially manage their well-being. And then if I was to define productivity, and I did look it up to see what does it say in the dictionary, productivity is the state or quality of producing something. So when we talk about productivity, we're looking to produce outcomes. And those outcomes can be at home, work, school, and even volunteerism and in our homes. How are we producing? How are we achieving goals? So the thing about it is there is a direct relationship between mental health and productivity. And so that relationship in psychology today, they talk about what that relationship is. So if we have poor mental health, that means that we don't have a strong ability to deal with issues. This poor mental health leads to depression, anxiety, and burnout. And then this in turn will severely decrease our motivation and our productivity. So an example of that would be someone who is feeling sad and lonely and down. And others are expecting this person to arrive to work on time, produce at work, be a good parent, be a good spouse or partner. But their depression causes their motivation and productivity to be low. And so if you think about it, it's a circle, right? Where we don't feel like doing things, but doing things is going to get us out of that feeling. But we just don't feel like it, so we're not going to do much. So that is how mental health and productivity relates. So when we talk about mental health, I like to talk about some tips on how to increase our mental health. One of the first things is that the things we do should be culturally informed, meaning wherever we are and where we're from, we should be taking our culture into consideration. So when we talk about mental health, a lot of times people kind of just generalize, like, oh yeah, go talk to someone. But in every culture, talking to someone is not something that we do. It's not appropriate, but so we have to figure out culturally what is appropriate. So in some cases, some people pray, some people meditate, some people will engage in other type of spiritual care. So that's one of the first thing we have to think about. What is culturally informed care as it relates to mental health? But in the Western world, one of the things we say is to talk to someone. But I'll also add, talk to a close friend, someone you know, someone you trust. And when I say talk about everything, the joys that you have, the fears that you have, areas that you would like to improve, and just talk. Because believe it or not, when we talk about things, we feel so much better. In private practice, my first session is getting to know the person. So the person is talking a lot about them. Well, many times when they're done, they say, oh my gosh, I feel so much better. And remember, nothing changed, right? The only thing happened was that they had a chance to talk and someone had a chance to listen to them uninterrupted. So that's important. Another thing is seeking professional treatment. So in the mental health space, what that means is to do one of three things. One, talk to a professional about all that you're going through. Two, engage in medication for mental health. So there are medications out there that works for depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia, all of these things that mental health wise we go through. Let me go back and also remind everyone that everyone at some point deals with a mental health issue. And some of those mental health issues are depression, that's normal, and anxiety. Depression is when we feel sad about something, and it could be from an hour to years. Sometimes it's seasonal, and sometimes it is incidental. And then anxiety is something that everyone deals with. We get anxious if we have to make a presentation. We get anxious when we travel, when we're in new spaces. But anxiety is a good thing. We just have to manage it and treat it. And then the third way to seek professional treatment is a combination of both. Sometimes we need to talk about what's going on and we need the medication. So those are the three ways of seeking professional treatment. Another tip would be to read or listen to self-help books. There are lots of books available out there written by professionals on reminders of things we need to do, like get the appropriate amount of sleep, remain physically active, walking, stretching, jogging, climbing, socialize with people. Socializing is really important, and we recognize that during the pandemic. How many of us couldn't socialize physically anymore, even if it was a brief period of time, but we learned to kind of still get together, like using platforms like what we're doing now, Zoom. We have to remain connected. That's important for human behavior. And self-help books talk about these things. Journalism, writing down your thoughts, reading inspirational affirmations about things like today is your day. You know, today you will accomplish all that you set out to do. These are positive things. A lot of people engage in negative self-talk. And the negative self-talk is when we tell ourselves, oh, you're never going to get that. Oh, you're never going to accomplish that. You weren't built for that, so don't even try it. So we want to kind of combat the negative self-talk and engage in positive affirmation. And other books, like the book that I wrote that Remy mentioned earlier called Copology, it is an anthology. But what it does is it talks about how we can use our individual spirituality to deal with life's challenges. And in the book, there's other people's stories on how they've used spirituality to deal with grief and loss, spirituality to deal with survivor's guilt. But at the end of the book, I do give some really clean-cut mental health tips on how to take care of yourself. So one of the things I talk about briefly is that men also need self-care and what that looks like for males, for example. And then I would also say those are the most important tips that I can offer currently. So what I'm saying is that we can increase our productivity by focusing on our mental health needs. And if you notice, I use the word we and I, because everything that I'm speaking about starts with me. It starts with you. So one of the things I tell people as a mental health therapist, that even the mental health therapist need a therapist, needs a person to talk to. And if someone don't understand, I tell them that your dentist has a dentist. He or she cannot do work on themselves. So that's how important mental health is for each of us. And when we increase that, you will see and learn skills to create and manage a schedule, managing your time, avoiding or decreasing procrastination. And when we do all of that, we'll see an increase in our productivity as it relates to our home life, our work life, our school life. But most importantly, give yourself grace. Be kind and gentle to ourselves, to yourself. An example of that is speak to yourself as you would speak to a friend. Many times when a friend comes to us and tell us something, we are kind, we listen, we will give them some encouraging words, but we also need to do that to ourselves as well. And all of that, to me, relates to mental health and productivity. Thank you for your time. If you need to reach out to me, I'm going to drop the information in the chat, which is my phone number, email address, and website. Thank you.
Wow. That was practitioner dimension. I mean, we can't have it, in another way than what you just done. Awesome. Thank you very much from the campus to the practitioner angle. That was awesome. And one thing you mentioned that really hits me, and I put in the chat room, was about your book. And one of the angles we talked about your book is it's not a bad idea to care for men. We always think it's only women that have mental issues, men also have issues. And then I tell people it's not bad for you to cry. Crying is, therapeutic. Sometimes you need to cry and shed it out and get it out of yourself. I mean, awesome. Thank you very, very, very much. All right. I think we are making progress, and I'm checking my time. We are still good with time. If you want to connect with Dr. Frederick, you can always do that. I'm sure she's going to drop our details, and then you can always connect right from here. Thank you. Now we're going to the next speaker. And Dr. Frederick, I have my questions for you too. So I'm keeping that till the last speaker drop our own thoughts. We're going to the last speaker, and we're going to look at a dimension from her. She has been involved. Okay, let me quickly read one paragraph of her bio, and then one paragraph there, and then you can have an idea. Miss Elyse Schipper is Executive Director of Family Service in Ottawa, and that's Canada. She's a value-driven and strategic leader with more than 15 years track record of excellence in non-profit sector. She has dedicated much of her career in initiating, expected unable to high quality life for all. So she's been focusing on high quality life for all. She had so much for post-secondary school. She has programs for non-for-profit for people who are going through different mental issue. In fact, she's done so much program in the past, and I don't want to go through all that one by one. And then when she's talking, she can also mention them. And I want to invite to the microphone and yield the floor for our next speaker, Miss Elyse Schipper. Go ahead. 15 minutes. Drop it.
Okay.
Thank
you so much, Remy, for that introduction. I kind of want you to come with me everywhere. I feel energized getting that kind of introduction. Thanks for having me. I find it really nourishing to start the day. For me, it's starting the day with people from all over the world talking about the same thing. I love this opportunity. Some of you know, and others may have kind of wondered, It's not a coincidence that Dr. Schipper and I have the same last name. We are related. He is my dad. We don't always travel in teams.
I didn't want to mention that, but you did, so go ahead.
Yeah, no, we don't always travel in teams, but this happens to really be my wheelhouse and what I've been working on for my whole career. And it's also not a coincidence that much of my thinking and approach to mental health is around quality of life and around the sort of engineering and systems perspective of what are the parts of the system where we can have influence and what are the parts that aren't working. So you can kind of see the influence of his work in how I've been approaching mental health in my career. My experience in mental health sector spans about 15 years, primarily in community-based intervention. So as opposed to private practice or especially hospital-based interventions, primarily with youth and families, and mostly in innovative spaces that challenge mainstream expectations of those living with mental health challenges, and also that challenge mainstream approaches. I think the best use of my time here today is to share a few stories with you about what I've seen and what I've learned that I think will provide good fodder for your productivity trained minds to run with. I suspect you all recognize already that this is not an other people problem. This is really widespread and common. Joanne, I love your definition of mental health. And I love especially that it's not about being happy all the time, and it's not about just alleviating systems. It's a whole holistic perspective of the different parts of your life and being able to cope, manage, and optimize them. And Daryl, one takeaway for me in particular from your presentation is seeing this really as a challenge and not a threat. There's so much opportunity in maximizing people's mental health in the workplace and elsewhere. It's just a huge opportunity, something that we can really harness. So the first story I want to share with you is about Pine River Institute and the idea of early and intensive intervention. So Pine River opened in 2006 as the first and only center of its kind in Canada. It's a long-term, intensive wilderness and live-in treatment center for youth 13 to 19 who are struggling with significant mental health and addiction challenges. So the model was based on successful programs elsewhere in the world, primarily in the United States, and adapted to fit the Canadian context. The youth who needed this program were using drugs and alcohol daily, out of school, in trouble with the law, in severe conflict with their families, frequenting emergency departments, and on a really dangerous downward spiral. These were kids who were at serious risk of death or of a lifetime of chronic illness. The status quo treatment for these youth was to stabilize them briefly when they showed up in emergency departments, maybe prescribe medication, but without any follow-up or monitoring, maybe access an outpatient therapy program, and at best be placed in a 30-day program to address the addictive habits, but not any of the underlying mental health challenges or any of the other parts of the system that were contributing to this sort of maladaptive coping strategy. The premise of Pine River, based on the evidence of American programs and really the complete failure of any alternatives in Canada that existed at the time, is that if youth were given intensive support and as much time as they needed to fully heal and mature and prepare to live healthy lives, the outcomes would be excellent and sustainable. That instead of trying a series of the least intensive approaches aimed at alleviating symptoms or avoiding emergency, Pine River would put all of the best resources towards helping a youth and their family for a sustained period in order to fully address symptoms, underlying challenges, and the systems that could support a healthy life going forward. The outcomes of the Pine River approach speak for themselves. So the youth who graduate from the program, which is often about 12 to 18 months, again, very different from 30 days or a one hour session, have really outstanding and sustained outcomes. So they have a high quality of life with significantly decreased or absence of the issues that brought them to Pine River in the first place. And we're looking 1 year out, 2 years out, 5 years out, now 10 years out from the first kids who entered this program. They're in school or working. They're not using drugs or alcohol, or they're using them in a way that is not interfering with their functioning or their mental health. They don't have contact with the law. They aren't showing up in emergency. They're healthy, productive youth who have regained their lives and their futures. And these outcomes are miles apart from what happens for youth who are cycled through a series of Band-Aid approaches. The story here for me is the success of an early and intensive intervention where significant money, time, and people resources are invested upfront for sustained successful outcome. The alternative and more status quo approach is to meter out as few resources as possible over several years, which may result in some reduction in symptoms and provide a functional adult, but someone who is more likely to maintain dependence on health and social services. The second story I want to share with you is about Pleo. It's another nonprofit organization that I worked with that focused on supporting the parents and the caregivers of children up to age 25 who are struggling with mental health or addiction challenges. This organization, Ottawa-based, was founded by parents who actually met in a hospital emergency room when all of their children were in crisis. They hadn't met before, but all of their kids were in there in crisis. And they recognized this pivotal role that caregivers play in influencing the outcomes of their struggling loved ones. Parents, for the most part, are experts in their children. They know what the baseline is. They know what they're like when they're okay. They know what they're like when they're at their best. They know what they're like when they're at their worst. They tend to be the most committed and consistent presence in a child's life. They often have the most leverage, and they have the most perfectly aligned incentives for the job of helping their kids get well. So the opportunity here, recognized at Pleo, is that if these parents could be educated, empowered, and supported to be really effective in their caregiver roles, then the outcomes for the youth would be better. So the research and outcomes over 20 years supported this. Parents were better able to access the services they needed for themselves and their kids, better able to support their kids, better able to cope, and their own mental health was better. And this is a low-cost, low-barrier intervention that maximized and optimized an existing resource, the parents, to improve outcomes and ultimately the productivity of kids, youth, and young adults. The other side of this is that Pleo recognized and advocated for the social cost of parents not being supported. So not only are their kids missing out, but parents of struggling kids who go without support experience significant stress and isolation and high conflict co-parenting relationships. And it's really only in Canada, at least the last few years, that advocates have started producing the evidence about the significant loss of productivity of parents. They miss work, they're on sick leave or disability, they have poor job performance, they have poor mental health of their own. When kids aren't okay and parents aren't supported, the entire family struggles, and it can be a long-term marathon struggle. So for me, this is really a story at looking at the bigger picture just beyond the struggling person or the struggling youth, to more accurately understand the costs, the ripple effects of not successfully helping a struggling person, and also to see the inflection points, the untapped resources that can be harnessed. The third story I want to share is about Family Services Ottawa, or FSO, where I'm currently the executive director, and it's about seeing the even bigger picture of the system that either supports or challenges a person's ability to be okay. So one of our primary services at FSO is mental health counseling. It's based in the community and grounded in the belief that a person exists in a system of determinants of health that include housing, community and connection, food, social inclusion, employment, etc. What this means functionally is that the most impactful treatment for a person struggling with the mental health is also to address all of the areas of their life that are either barriers or enablers to their well-being. So in a single appointment, for example, this can look like recognizing that a client is hungry and hasn't had anything to eat that day. And knowing that in that state, if a basic need of theirs has not been met, then they're less likely to be able to focus or gain anything from an hour of therapy. In our world, in that instance, the effective therapy starts with food. A granola bar and a banana, maybe some tea. Then a therapy session where the client isn't in that state of fight or flight because of an unmet basic need, and they can engage in a meaningful way. So they probably leave, if they're working with us, they probably leave with a grocery gift card. And the ongoing work with that client also addresses their food insecurity alongside with their mental health, because you can't think about them separately. To illustrate this another way, you can't expect that addressing or teaching a person to manage their stress is enough without also working to alleviate the issues that cause them some stress. It's like trying to bail out a boat with a leaky bucket. So when we step back and look at even the bigger picture of the world our client lives in, we can both prevent issues that are causing distress and bolster factors that promote wellness. We're also investing in making sure that our clients feel safe and secure in other ways, that our staff are trauma-informed, they're culturally competent, they represent the diversity of the people we serve so that context and life experience can be a shared understanding, not a missed communication. And I think in a lot of workplaces, especially cultural competence, trauma-informed, those kinds of things can seem like nice to haves, not must-haves. But if you think in terms of productivity, if a client does not first experience safety, and you can think of this as an employee also, if they don't first experience safety, you are unlikely to have an impactful therapeutic intervention or unlikely to have a highest functioning person in your workplace. You have to have those basic needs met. So again, for me, the lesson here is about widening the lens to see the factors that both support and challenge a person's mental health. In the same way you can't separate the head from the body because of that pesky neck, you can't think about a person's mental health without considering the world they live in and their unique way of experiencing it. And I loved Joanne's comment about understanding what is culturally appropriate and what is culturally meaningful to a person when you're thinking about their mental health. It's not always saying, go speak to a therapist. Sometimes that's part of it, but it's, can you even talk about mental health? Do you even call it mental health? And the spiritual connection where you start is community where you start. Do you speak with an elder? Do you speak with a friend? My last story is more of an observation of some of the barriers that prevent better process and outcomes in mental health. So the first is a borrowed line, I believe, from one of George Bush's speechwriters, which is the soft bigotry of low expectations. So generally speaking, I think our society and our health and social service systems expect very little of people who struggle with mental illness and mental health challenges. They expect low functioning. They expect low productivity. And the result of this is that the treatment or support or the plan that we have for these people and for the system that they work in is then set up with the goal of low expectations. So what are we aiming for? If we're aiming for low expectations, everything that happens before that goal will ensure that they lead us there. So what is considered successful for people who are struggling with mental health challenges, in my opinion, is often pretty dismal and not what you would consider good enough for you or good enough for your own child. And it's often people who are thrown into this in their own families that kind of realize how much this is impacting what's available for people and the way we take care of people. So I think a change in expectations, really raised expectations, is a required shift, I believe, to change how we aim to meet them. Another observation is the short-term funding and political cycles that most health services are subject to. So politicians need a success they can report on within the succession cycles, an election cycle, say reducing the number of emergency room visits for mental health crisis. So this is an indicator of something, and it certainly sounds good, but it is not an investment in the long-term and sustained well-being of a person. Funding cycles from government and many granting institutions are the same, often in 1 or 2 year terms, often only for new projects, not core operations. It really incentivizes organizations and health service providers to look for quick wins, not sustained solutions. The outcomes they look for are not how a person improves or sustains over time, just at what harm was reduced in the short term. So there's not funding for sustained solutions, including no funding for long-term employees who get better and better at their jobs over time. What is available mostly and often for health service agencies, at least in my part of the world, is a series of one-time short-term funding opportunities that don't allow for building, growing, sustaining, improving, or being proactive in an organization with the people in the organization and with the people we're serving. So I hope these stories and observations have sparked some ideas among this thinking group. I've talked about early and intensive interventions, about maximizing underused resources, about looking at the bigger picture for positive and negative collateral impact and inflection points, about properly aligning incentives, and about thinking, what are we aiming for? What do we expect of people who are struggling with mental health? And then how do we realign our plan to get them there? I believe that there really is tremendous opportunity to do better in how we prevent and treat and support people who are struggling with their mental health challenges, which we all know is pretty much everybody. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you all come up with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Woo, thank you. Thank you. That was very storytelling like, and I love your dimension to that. I love the style of giving us stories and different stories of how this happened in practical terms. So we had it from the workplace, we had it from a practitioner and dimension. We have it from someone who have stories to tell in that line. And I'll just ask my one question because I'm checking my time. But if you have any question, not contribution now, but if you have questions, you can just signify by raising your hand. On your screen, just there's a place you can raise your hand there, or you can drop your question in the chat room. Thank you very much for all the speakers and all our speakers today. I'm just trying to check my question. All right, so quickly let me just go to Ms. Cho. I want to ask a question. I want you to answer this question as fast as you can. I understand the place of stand-up, daily stand-up. I understand the place of retrospective, and bringing Agile to the workplace. And I know that many organizations are still fighting that. Agile is still a new methodology, new mindset, coming in. And I know there's a place of incremental production just to be able to allow people to have rest, produce, rest, analyze, check, retrospective, and all that. Now, how can we introduce or create an environment that prioritizes mental well-being and productivity? How? In a simple way. For everybody here, they can take it home, and then we can start to put that to practice. How can we create an environment that really focus on mental well-being and productivity? Keep that, okay, answer that so that I can go to the next person. So I don't want to keep you waiting. Go ahead.
Okay, Remy. Now, incremental improvement. Okay, let's put it that way. I guess in our way, we know that we're not. We know from the very start. Okay, the top management, we're not looking for a big bang. We're not looking for something that is disruptive. We wanted, I won't say it's soft landing, but we wanted to make incremental improvement. We wanted it to do it one step at a time. And it's also a way of responding to change. And that, okay, we need a lot of communication. We always talked about, like, if we want to send a message, if we want to do something, okay, we need to ensure that we have or we send the right message across. So when you come, when your questions, the key words there is about incremental development. It's about incremental improvement. Now, it's not about the one person who said, yes, okay, I want it that way, period. And then everybody, you just have to do it step by step and get it done. Now, the mental well-being, or like what Dr. Schipper, okay, Elyse Schipper has just mentioned, we're talking about we need to create a mentally or a safe environment, okay, for these things to happen. Now, the key is not actually about incremental development. It's about creating that space so that we can pick their brains, so everybody can voice out, okay? Talk about what they're good at. Talk about what they think could be done. And then to lay it out on the table and then let everybody discuss. which is the better way, and to get everybody to agree on the same direction to move forward or to prioritize moving forward. And by doing that, okay, everybody feels that they are committed. Okay, and they feel good because they contribute to that work dynamic. They contribute to that planning. They're not taking orders. And when they do that, when they have it done, they feel good about it. They feel that they are being, they have something worth waking up in the morning and, going to work and spending 6 to 8 hours there. That's what matters.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I think I need to listen again and again to all your lectures to have all this sink in. But it's such a good presentation and your thoughts. Thank you. Let me ask Dr. Frederick, John Frederick. Now, what are the quick technique that one can use to bounce back from setbacks and high level of stress? You have setbacks, things happen, and it happens to you. What are the quick technique that one can use to bounce back from setback or high level of stress? If you can do it as sharp as possible, I'll be so glad. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes. So I would say before thinking about the bounce back, think about the prevention. So the prevention, number one, is a mindset. One of the mindset is that life happens. While we're living, things are going to come up. So we will be involved in accidents or loved one accidents or dealing with death, loss. And so the prevention is taking care of ourselves. So when those things come up, we already have some things in order. So the taking care of the selves are sleep, how we eat, how we stay active, how we nurture our spirituality, whatever that means to each of us individually, so that when things happen, now we just have to increase those things that we've already been doing. So increase socializing so that we have a support system that when things come up, we know who's in our support. As I talked about spirituality, knowing how we nurture our spirituality. Spirituality and religion is not the same. But if we are religious, how do you practice your religion? And if you are spiritual, how do you nurture that? So, for example, some people nurture their spirituality by being outside in nature, being outside in the environment, listening to the birds, looking up at the sky and appreciating the clouds and the leaves, things that you see, hear, and feel. And so to bounce back when things happen, we need to engage in those type of self-care, for example.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. And because I see, and so if you raise your hand, can you, if possible, can you help me to just type your question down so I can take it, once and for all? Please write down your questions. I'll see 2 hands on, Kristen King, and we'll see Sajay from India. The last question that I have here is for Ms. Elyse Schipper. I want to looking at your questions and your background and all you've been doing over the years. How can leaders of organization actively promote mental health awareness in the organization without harming the people, without harming the people that are going through this? How can we promote this in an organization? I mean, is there a quick way we can promote this without having to expose or making people to feel, bad?
Is your question about promoting mental health for the people working in the organization?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think there are a number of ways, and that it really kind of echoes what Daryl and Joanne were saying also, which is that people, you can't do anything in an organization without people being at their best and being supported and have the resources they need to be successful. And if you are not looking at that as like your primary, most important resource to support, I think you're missing an opportunity for everything else that follows from there. And the other thing is sort of looking at, there's a lot of talk about work-life balance. There's a lot of talk about, decent work is a term that we hear a lot here in the nonprofit sector in Canada. If you want people to be eating and exercising and getting outside and connecting. How do you build the workday to support that? You probably can't have them working from 8 a.m. till 8 p.m. You probably need a good lunch break and maybe walking groups. You need team meetings where you come together and it's not just business, but there's an opportunity to actually connect. Maybe, you know, there's a lot of ways to build that in. It's just model what you want for people. I think, you know, an organization is just like another unit. It's another little system in the world, the same way a family is or the way a community is. So if you're a leader in an organization, you have an opportunity to build that little system the way you would want it to look for a family or community. It's not that, you know, work is your family, people are your family. I know there's mixed ideas about that, but you have control over that little system, and modeling it for a way that supports wellness, I think is actually pretty straightforward when you look at what are the basic needs that people have.
Awesome. Thank you. I think understanding the organization, what people need, and then putting the culture is very key. All right. So I think Sajay has feedback or comments, but let me quickly take Kristen King. What is your question? Do you want to just let me have all the questions together? So I'm checking my time so I can give it to all the speakers that need to answer. If you can take one or more comment, then we can wrap for the day. Kristen King, can you ask your question? 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, so my question is, I just want to know, how can you create a balance with a family as a therapist where you come up with a goal and then the family is not, you know, adhering to the goals of the clients? How can you balance that?
Okay, I think so. Who will answer this? Elyse, I think you deal with family. I don't know. Elyse or Dr. Frederick. How do we balance you know, family that's having issue, and then how do you probably do? I mean, do you get the question right?
I did. I think so. Let me clarify.
Okay, please.
Thank you, Christine.
One minute, please. Yeah.
When you say family, were you referring to a personal family or a clinical family? So a family you're working with clinically or our personal family? I just want to clarify your question.
So I'm working with, I'm a therapist. I'm working with a client in the family.
Yes.
But the client in the family, we work on parenting skills. So we set goals and we discuss those goals as the family to include reward system for the client. But now the parent doesn't adhere to those goals for the reward system for the client. So how do we balance that?
Yeah, okay, I understand. Thank you for the clarification. So one, with the parent, I would point that out to her, like let her or him know that, hey, we have goals that you set, but also make sure that the goal is coming from the family or that client or, you know, the mother. Make sure that it's not your goals, that's where the goals come from. But if the goals aren't working, then I will look within that individual, what else is going on? Because to me, it also sounds like the mental health issues, whether they're as small as anxiety or depression, is having an impact on their productivity, whatever that goal is. So if you remember earlier, I spoke about the mental health relating to being productive, even in the home. And so that's what I'm hearing. That's why there's a disconnect. So, for example, it's easy for me to say, hey, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. and take the kids to school. It's easy to say it, but it might be difficult to do it. And because I don't do it, the people around me, it has an impact on them, and they also get frustrated. And so it's this cycle that's going on. So I would say look into further what other mental health issue is going on that has an impact on the goal that's trying to be achieved.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Frederick. I have just 3 minutes to do this. Sajay, can you drop your thoughts in 1 minute? Is it contribution or a question? 1 minute, please.
Yeah, no, it's my contribution I want to make and I want to discuss. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone, the host, the panelist, as well as participant. My view is that we just recently opened a organization, Nashville Education Foundation, and we are very focused for it for mental health as well as productivity and for enhancing life. So our tagline is enhancing productivity, enhancing life. So what do we feel that nutrition plays a very important role in enhancing mental health, for goodness of mental health, and similarly when mental health gets improved, naturally the productivity gets improved. So they are correlated to each other. Why don't we all enhance the concept of nutrition, which plays a vital role in enhancing productivity? What is your view? What is the view of panelists and everyone, participants
We
too?
cannot have all their views right now. If you're going to do that, we're going to spend another 30 minutes here. But it's well taken. And then let me see if I can have anyone that can put answer on that. Thank you very much for that contribution. Mike, do you have a question or a comment for 1 minute? We got to the house.
It's a question. I put it in the chat box, Remy.
Chat box, okay.
Okay, so I've specifically said it's basically to all of the speakers, but I'm singling Elyse. It's about scalability. I'm interested in, we get what we measure. I've taken Pine River as an approach, or the carers and parent approach. What specific goals and impact measures would Elyse set to make that actually work at large scale?
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mike. Let me put your hands down. And that's what we're going to take now. So I'm going to go through all the speakers. One thought, just drop one thought, in either answering to Mike or the contribution from Sanjay. What is your one thought that you want us to take home? And that will be the wrap for today. Starting from, okay, let's start from Elyse. One thought.
Okay. Well, I'm going to cheat and try and squish two thoughts into 1 minute, but it kind of answers both questions. I think one, the opportunity of looking at the larger system and housing, spirituality, community, employment, all of those things, is that it might seem like, oh, that's a lot to address, but it also means those are all different little entry points. So if someone comes to you and nutrition is an issue, their nutrition needs are not being met, that's your opportunity. That's where you're meeting them to be able to address their nutrition issues. And yes, that will have an impact on mental health. So there's a lot of different ways to come about it. And also, I think in that same way, it's not about everybody having to do the same thing and having the same outcomes. But if there is emphasis and a requirement that we're saying this is what we're aiming for and this is what we're achieving, then we can see what all the different parts of the system are. So if there's an organization that's meeting nutrition needs, let's celebrate that, and we can say this is how it fits the bigger system. And same thing with someone who is doing harm reduction. That's great that they're keeping them out of emergency. Let's celebrate that and see how it fits the bigger system.
Thank you. Dr. Frederick. 30 seconds.
Thank you. So as a practitioner scholar, one of the things I do is everything that I teach, I should also be trying to practice. And so what I want to walk away with, sharing with everyone, what is the one thing that you learned today from the 3 speakers, maybe even 5 speakers, that you can practice for yourself to increase productivity as it relates to you, your organization, or your home life? That's the challenge I have for each of us.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you. All right. Cho, thoughts, drop it.
Now, I heard about, the 2 comments and questions. I mean, about the relationship of mental health, increase, better mental health, then better productivity. And then I remember one of them talked about the scalability as well. From a corporate's point of view, really, when it comes to making change, okay, it is dreadful. That's like the first impression of change. I don't like change. I like my comfort zone. So in our case, if we were to make change, even though we keep on saying the change is good, it's going to increase the mental health, it's going to make you better, it's going to make the environment better. But change, I mean, people are uncertain about change. They don't know how it's going to be. So on our side, we like to start small. Okay, we have pilot teams. We teach them. We handpicked. We teach them. We let them do, and then we fine tune, and then we let them tell the story, and then we let them spread the words. People, they will know. They will notice there are changes they are doing differently from them, and they will peep. They will try and they will try and watch, and they will feel it. They will see it, and then they will start asking questions, and then they will come and they will like, can I give it a try? What are you doing? That sort of thing. So it is that sort of curiosity. They have that needs, and you answer them. Okay, you try and feed that needs. So that's how we do with change. And with the mental health well-being, it's not just about the physical thing, giving them the best desk, the best office environment. It's about showing them, okay, and let them feel like, yeah, this is what I want. Let them come to you. And of course, going from that point, point A to point B, it takes a lot of communications. And that's how we get into that scalability.
Thank you. I know you're ready to go on and on and on. If you give me this time,
I know. Okay.
Thank you. All our speakers are wonderful. They are good to go. They are ready to go for one. But no, we got to stop right now. Thank you very much. And I want to call Anita Tang to take us on the wrap, and then we'll be out of this place. Anita, over to you.
I had a long speech, but now I can only say thank you, Harvey. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you, Elyse. And thank you, Daryl, for all the wonderful thoughts you have shared with us. I'll cut it very, very short. See you guys in a few months in our next event. And back to you, Remy, for a picture.
All right. So let's on all our cameras. I know some of us have comments. You can still drop your comments. You can drop your contribution. We can't take any comment right now, but let's on our camera so we can take pictures. All cameras on. Chris Daniel, everybody on your camera. Let's take beautiful pictures, and this will be memorable pictures in years to come. So everybody on your camera and smile to the camera. We're going to take a picture right now. Christine, we can see you. Dr. Sawyer, okay. Dr. Sawyer and Kristen, can you on your camera, except you are in a compromised environment. So if not, if you are good to go, let's take the first one and see how it goes. Smile. Let me try that and see how that looks. All right, let's take one more and then we'll wrap. Everybody smile. Christine, are you good? Should we go ahead? And then Dr. Sawyer, okay, let's go ahead and do another one. Good. All right, I think this should be it. Thank you very much, everybody. It's awesome. Yes, I got the pictures. Very good. Good one. All right, I want to say thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we on our mics and say thank you to all our speakers? Mike, thank you. Mike Dutton, thank you for staying around for so long.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr.
Good sharing. Good sharing.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Els. Thank you, Dr. Joanne Frederick. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Daryl Chow, we're going to meet. I'm going to connect with you on the agile perspective. We continue our discussion. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Annie. It's been a long time. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Everybody, thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.